Okay, in this video I am going to talk about SQL Server 2008 and the temp tables that you can create in the SQL Server. Okay, firstly you create a temp tables only in the temp DB database, that is one of the system database. Okay, you, as you can see on the screen, you can create three types of temp table: local temp table, global temp table, and permanent temp table. Okay, now let's examine one by one what these are and what they stands for. Okay, the first local temp table is created in the temp DB starting with the hash character. Okay, and followed by the name of the table. Okay, let's go to global temp table. The global temp table also is created in temp DB. You create a global temp table starting with 2 hash followed by the table name. Okay, and a permanent temp table, okay, is created just like a normal table in the temp DB. The local temp table will exist until your connection that created that table is there. Once that connection is disconnected or the user logs out, that temp table will get deleted from the temp DB. While the global temp table will last until the connection that created it or until all the connection have stopped using the table, whichever comes last. The permanent temp table will be there till the server is restarted or rebooted. Local temp table, it can be accessed only by the user who created it. You cannot adjust the permission on the local temp table. Global temp table can be accessed by all the connection user until the permission has been revoked. What do I mean by the permission has been revoked? If if I don't want some of the user to be having access, I can ask the system administrator, or I can myself, if I can actually revoke the permission for that table to the any other user. Okay, now this permanent temp table can be accessed by any user or the connection if the permission has been granted. Okay, means that a table must create permanently in the temp table or in the temp database. You have to give the permission for that table, otherwise the other user cannot access it. Okay, oh, now let's move to the screen and see some of the SQL. Okay, here is the local temp table. Okay, the creation, it says create a local temp DB hash local temp table refers, that's the integer and all. Okay, this is how you create a temp table. Okay, and let's say if you want to select from the temp table, you use the SQL. Okay, and so on, so and so forth. You need not specify the temp DB. Okay, by creating the temp table. Okay, it automatically would be created in the temp database only. Okay, and this is how you actually find the name of the temp DB sys objects by select name from the temp DB sys objects where type equals to u. Okay, u equals stands for user. Okay, and these are the SQLs. Actually we will examine it in the SQL server itself. Okay, these are for the local temp tables in the temp DB. Okay, these SQL. Let's go and examine the global temp tables SQL. These are some of the global temp table SQL. You can see that the table is created using a double hash. Okay, that's the only difference between a local and a global temp table while creating the temp tables. Okay, a single hash and a double hash. And we move to the next slide that will show us how to create a permanent temp table. Okay, you created a permanent temp table just like that, like any other normal table. Okay, that's it. And now we will go and execute this SQL in the SQL server itself. Okay, here are the tables. Okay, this is how we create a temp table. I'm going to execute it. Okay, one by one SQL statement, and you can see the table is being created. Okay, the table is created. Let's go and check it with the SQL only whether the table has been created or not. I'm going to use a select statement. Okay, and it's executing the query. Okay, there we are. It doesn't have any record so far. I can always check it with the in the system DBSys objects where actually it is being stored. Okay, and it should show me the name of the tables of the temp table. Okay, now here it is on the top. As you can see, local temp table, and then there's a dash, and there would be a big gap, and there would be some random number in the end of the table generated. Okay, that is what SQL Server does it. It does it for the own reasons. Okay, I have no idea why it does it. Okay, you can contact SQL Server Microsoft to find out what is the reason. Okay, now let's go to the, if you wanted to find out if there were many temp tables, and if you wanted to find out for your user ID, then you could execute this query and you will find out for your user ID. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, as you know, I have already spoken that you cannot adjust the permission on the local temp table. Okay, now I am going to select execute the next SQL statement. Okay, and let's go and execute it. Okay, now it will create a table named authors, which will be temporary, and it will have the all the records from the pubs database from the author table. Okay, now it has created this thing, the table, and let's go and see the contents of the temp table. Okay, it has created the temp table. We can see that the author exists down. Okay, now let's go and see the contents of this thing. Okay, here we go. There we have from the temp database we have a author temporary table. Okay, and that's how it actually is the temp table getting created as a temp DB. Okay, now let's create a global temp table. Okay, here is a global temp table getting created. Okay, let's go and check it. Let's go and select from the, if there are any records, at least it will show us the fields. There aren't any records because we haven't inserted any record. And let's go and check it whether it exists in the sys objects, and it should show us. Okay, there we are. Okay, and now you can create a lost permanent temp table. Okay, that will exist till the server is rebooted. Okay, and there we should execute it. There is no hash in the front of this table, no double hash, and it will only go when the server is rebooted. Okay, or restarted, whatever you want to say. Okay, and there we can execute it. There we are. That's it. That's how the temp tables are created in the temp database. I will stop here.